Welcome to Artificial Insights, where we interview product leaders and thinkers in AI about what it means to do AI right. I'm your host, Daniel Maneri. If you're new here, we usually talk to people at businesses that build AI products. But this summer, we pressed pause on features to think about wisdom and agency, and then took a look at how students are finding their own way into AI apart from a school or a job. In case you missed our summer season, today I'll be giving you the highlights. We opened the summer with three thinkers who sit at the intersection of AI and meaning. First, Sheldon, who has a background in AI leadership and theology. He gave us a picture of AI as an instantaneous friend, always on, always agreeable, never challenging us or asking us to wait. He warned about the risk that convenience trains us to avoid struggle. His challenge was simple, but hard. If thinking can be outsourced, what habits will we protect in ourselves and in our kids? Whether you're parenting children or deciding how your product should build habits for its users, Sheldon's thoughts will help.
When I think about this, I'm in between grave concern for our society and utter excitement because I don't know what this means and what it could portend moving forward, right? There's a saying, Daniel, you might have heard this. Any technology that was developed before you were 30 is, just the way it is. And it's exciting and new and just the way it is. Any technology that's developed after is absolutely terrifying. I was one of the first few students when I was in grade school to get a computer, right? And I used to hand in some of my assignments typed because I was a much better typer and faster typer than I was a printer or a writer. And one of the teachers told my mom, you should discourage Sheldon from using a word processor because he won't struggle to write properly and it'll take away from his creativity. That's what she said. And I mean, how absurd is that assertion now? So, part of me thinks, are we alarmists just because this is new? But this is different. This is replacing thinking. This is not replacing the tool by which you think. And that's what's different about it. But on the other hand, is this just part of the human trajectory or species trajectory of how we evolve? Do we only get to the next level of our cognition or understanding through some kind of cooperation with the synthetic? Is it what allows us to crack big problems, renewable energy, space travel, things that we never would have got on our own, or we would have got them at a much slower rate? Is this the invention that fuels all the other inventions? So I'm both concerned, and I say this as both a member of society, but a concerned father that has two boys, 6 and 2, no clue what their world looks like in 5 years, let alone when they're adults. But also, is this just the evolution of progress? So I'm on knife's edge between grave concern and excitement. And maybe that's just the balance we need. I don't know.
Next, Dr. Christopher Watkin. He argued that AI's gift is not just productivity, it's that it exposes our assumptions about value. He called it the anti-alchemy. The process matters less, the product matters more. What does that say about our value as humans if we can't be infinitely efficient like the machines can? He also pushed back on a trap he calls the humanity of the gaps. If we define ourselves by whatever AI can't do yet, we have to keep moving the goalposts as AI gets better and we'll miss what's actually human. Dr. Watkin reminds us that friction, limits, and shared experience carry meaning that output alone cannot carry.
The vast majority of human history, problem has always been, how can I get enough calories to keep me alive? There's one danger, and that is insufficient calories. Recently, in a very inconvenient way in terms of how we're wired, we've got a second problem, which is that it's now possible to have too many calories, to do damage to ourselves in that way. Like, that's never been an issue for thousands of years. And then suddenly we're faced with two problems. I can have too little still, or I can have too much. And it's a similar issue, I think, with work. So it's always been, how can I get more done? How can I be more efficient? Suddenly, we're faced with the prospect of infinite efficiency. I can get everything done with no effort. That's like saying I can have as many calories as I can physically consume within my budget. That's not an issue. But the problem is that brings a second problem alongside the first one. It's how many calories are too many? How much efficiency is not good for me? Like that, if you'd have asked someone to that in the 19th, 1870s, that's a crazy question. Like, we want all the efficiency we can get. But now, with the prospect of an utterly frictionless productivity, we're forced to ask the new question, oh, hold on, how much friction is actually good for me? Because I can eliminate it almost completely now. How much effort for the student is it important to put into an essay in order to end up with a really good essay, when you can end up with a brilliant essay with no effort at all? And so we're having to inch ourselves into a very new world where we're thinking, how much stress and difficulty and grind and grunt and process is it important for me to have in order to be formed into the sort of person who, fill in the gap, the sort of person who can receive that phone call at 2 a.m. in the morning and know immediately how to respond to it, because that sort of thing happens. The sort of person who can come home and my child throws all sorts of problems at me and I know what it's like. We can't always run to AI. So we have to be the sort of people who can do stuff. How much friction do I need in my life in order to be the sort of person who can do it?
Then Dr. K. She described a wisdom gap, the widening space between what machines can do and what people can understand. She talked about the tyranny of convenience, that quiet drift where we let technology make choices we used to own. And she made a key distinction. AI is not like the printing press. AI does not only amplify effort, it persuades and adapts. That means questions about agency, vocation, and worth move from theory into daily life. Dr. K provides a sobering warning. If we let it, AI can convince us of what's right and take away our agency.
But one of the things as humans that we have to be sure, and it's a technical term used now, and I don't know if you've heard it, Daniel, but there is this, within this persuasive technology, a gradual disempowerment that happens. We need to be sure that we hold on to our own agency as we partner with these very, very, very powerful models. So, but I'm really human.
Yeah.
And Claude will always remind me that I'm human because I simply cannot process as fast as he does.
I love that term actually, the gradual disempowerment,
Yeah.
because I have felt it.
Have
I have
you?
felt myself saying, I could do this, or I could ask the model, and then I have to stop and think, this isn't something I should be asking this model. What am I doing?
Well, how do you, that's a good question. If you don't mind me asking you a question, how do you discern whether you should go to a model or not now?
That is an excellent question, because I've started defaulting to asking it things, and I have to step back and say, this is actually something that I need in my brain. This is context I need to make a judgment. This is context I need to have a conversation, even with work. If I don't know the details of the project and I'm just saying, hey, ChatGPT, read this PDF for me and tell me what I should say, I'm not actually doing my job. I'm being negligent.
Yeah, it's a disempowerment. So, do you feel an internal conflict of sometimes, like, I just want to default rather than have agency? And I think that's true for most people that interact and interface with these models, these very, very powerful models. And what I call this is an old term that did not apply to AI, but it was Tim Wu back in 2018. He was a reporter. He wrote an article entitled, and that's long before generative AI that is really making a splash. He called it the tyranny of convenience.
Hmm.
And so, and what he was saying, it didn't apply to AI, but there's a sense in which what makes us human sometimes is the struggle, is that internal fight and growth that we need. So he said we should resist that tyranny of convenience. And so it makes me think of, it's not a matter of whether this is an ethical framework, right or wrong. It's, do we want to do what is right, or do we want to do what is easy?
Hmm.
And that's the tyranny. We end up wanting to default to what is easy. And if we're not mindful with this sort of partnership, we're going to find ourselves wishing that AI was not what it is today.
After ethics, we went back to school. Literally. That's a joke I put in there just for my wife. At the end of the summer, we interviewed 3 students who are building real things and wrestling with real trade-offs. Devere is a physics undergrad who moves between quantum foundations and AI tools. He's building thersona.com, a personal assistant that learns from you, and he's also applying causal inference to diabetes forecasting so people can run what-if scenarios hours into the future. His lens is curiosity plus rigor. He made a strong case for aligning personalization with privacy and control. For leaders, it's a reminder that respect for the user is not a feature, it's architecture.
There's an angle about privacy for it because it knows so much about you. So are you comfortable with that? And I think I've realized, both by seeing how friends worked with it and introspection, I think I've realized that a lot of the feelings that comes from knowing how much like Instagram listens to you feels like you're being exploited in a way. You first of all can't really control it, because if it listens while your phone is just there, what are you gonna do? It's as if it's trying to do it without you knowing. And so it's not very much in your control. So you feel like you're being exploited. And another way is that it doesn't directly improve your experience. And so, for example, the way these free apps work is they gather information about you in order to give you better ads so that they can monetize and give you a free service. Now, with Persona, the more it knows about you and you choose what to give it, it's not like it's trying to do it without you knowing it in or any way. And you can also see explicitly all the context window it has about you and kind of remove anything or modify. But
Nice.
the more it knows about you, the better it works for its intended purpose. So Instagram doesn't get better. It doesn't give you a better picture of that your friend posted if it knows more about you. No, it just gets you the free app. And with Persona, if you want to use it at all, then you would prefer if it knows more about the stuff that you wanted to know about.
Alex is a student at Johns Hopkins. He talked about the commoditization of intelligence. When skills move from scarce to common, the shape of work changes. He's exploring that through Flow, a health app that adapts to context, and a snake-like surgical robot for eye surgery in the lab, and an autonomous rover so that he can learn by doing. He thinks a lot about dynamic interfaces that make data easier to act on, so people depend less on their devices and can be more present.
Most interesting thing I think to see about AI is, in some sense, it's commoditized intelligence.
Yeah.
And the thing about intelligence is that it's been a leading identity, I think, of humanity for the last 200 years.
Yeah.
And by commoditizing it, I think it hurts. It definitely hurts, especially for those that identify as intellectuals, aka most university students and those in academia. But at the same time, it offers a lot of opportunity to really discover what it means to be human. Because when we think of what makes us different, sometimes that's the way for us to, in some sense, have some sort of superiority complex over others and each other's ways of life. And I think that's what's been really cool about AI is to see like, wow, like the gap is really closing. What was once a mountain has now collapsed. And it's one of those things where we probably have a couple things that we should have changed, just like, for example, our education system. And because of this, now we have to change, whether we like to or not.
Asha is a grade 12 student who ran into a mixed message that many students feel. At school, using AI risked suspension. At home, her dad, a chief AI officer, encouraged her to learn. She decided to build a safe place to learn apart from school, and Youth Tech Labs now gathers high schoolers for hands-on workshops and demo days. Asha also built Ask Eve, a chatbot that helps students talk about menstruation without shame. Her point is practical. If we do not create safe spaces for learning, students will learn in the shadows. Better to guide curiosity than to punish it.
And I thought, this is so incredible. Why aren't we being taught about this in school? And I thought, I find this very strange because when we talk about the ethical responsibility with AI, I realize that myself and my peers are going to be the generation who's going to have to carry on AI in a responsible manner. Now, how is that supposed to work when the people carrying it on don't know what it is and don't know how to use it? I thought that was a little bit counterintuitive, and that there was already this group who wanted to test it out and play with it, but did not have a safe space to do so. And I thought it was really important when I started realizing you need this to get a job. And that was my full stop moment where like, this makes no sense. And so I decided if we're not being taught it in high school, might as well do a community organization where people can come out on Saturday mornings and learn about AI.
All 6 conversations circle one big idea. If we want to do AI right, we need a clear picture of human worth that does not move when the benchmarks move. Practically, I see a few recommendations coming out of this season for how to do AI right. First, be clear about what decisions in your product must remain human. Then, add useful friction where it protects judgment. And be honest about what your tool persuades people to do, not only what it enables them to do. I believe this is important because we're all first-class humans. No matter what our outputs are, we all want to matter. Finally, stay tuned for Season 4. We have an exciting lineup of speakers from some amazing companies, including Fellow.ai, Canva, and Waha. We're excited to share these insightful conversations with you. I made this podcast because I want to be the person at the city gate, to talk to every person coming in and out doing great things with AI and find out what and why, and then share the learnings with everyone else. It would mean a lot if you could share the episode with someone that you think would like it. And if you know someone who would be a great person for me to talk to, let me know. Please reach out to me at Daniel Maneri on LinkedIn, or shoot an email to daniel@maneri.house, which is daniel@manary.haus. Thanks for listening.